This video is going to show you how to make French macarons. It's a pretty easy almond meringue cookie. The steps that we're going to be going through, basically the preparation, the mixing of the batter, portioning of the batter, drying of the cookie, baking, cooling, and then final production and presentation. We'll go through all those steps in this video. The first thing that you want to do, you want to get some almond flour. Again, we've already weighed out all of our product here. We're going to put our almond flour in the sifter, as well as our powdered sugar. There's two reasons that we sift the two products together. One is for even distribution, but the additional thing is to make sure we don't have any big chunks of either the almond flour or the powdered sugar. We don't want any lumps or big chunks of the almond in there. Depending on where you get your almond flour from, is kind of the mill that they use to make the flour. Some of them aren't as finely ground as others, and therefore you want to make sure that you sift them to assure again that you don't get any pieces. Now, any of the pieces that you have, you can put them into a smoothie. You can make an almond butter out of them if you've got enough. You can throw them into a cake. If you don't have a use for them, though, just simply throw them away. There isn't that much normally that's in the bottom of the screen, but you definitely don't want to just dump them into your cookie because it'll cause a very coarse, lumpy final cookie that you'll have. You also want to do this on a piece of parchment paper as far as sifting it. It'll make it a lot easier to get into your bowl if you do that. And you get ready to start folding it. So this is what wouldn't pass through the screen. So again, this we could put into a smoothie, throw it into a cake or cookies. A few other applications that you can use this for, making a nut butter out of it. But if you do not have a use for it, just simply throw it away. It does work good on a compost though. Next thing we're going to do is start working on our egg meringue. Egg whites, you want to make sure you don't have any fat in the egg whites, meaning any yolks. You also want to make sure that you don't have any fat in your bowl. So anytime that you're going to whip meringue or egg whites, you want to make sure that your bowl is clean. So the best thing to do is take and put hot soapy water, wash it out real good, rinse it real good, dry it, and use it. Or if you've got a dishwasher that you can throw it in that has hot water on it, do that. Again, you don't want any grease or any fat on the bowl. So we're going to put our egg whites in here, and we're going to just put the egg whites to start. We want to get them to a point of what's called frothing. So bring our bowl up here. We're going to turn this on high. Again, we just want to get it to where it's frothing. It's going to be a white foam. It's not thickening yet, but we want it to a froth. So again, we haven't added any ingredient to this yet. And normally, again, you wouldn't stop, but I want to make sure that I show you what a froth looks like. That is what a froth looks like. Again, it looks a little bit like the foam on a latte. So again, normally you wouldn't stop the machine. So now we're going to take and add our cream of tartar, our salt, and we're going to get our sugar ready to add. Now, the cream of tartar is important that you add to the meringue. Cream of tartar is an actual acid. It helps break down the egg white and actually makes a better meringue or a better peak on the meringue. If you don't have cream and tartar, you can also use lemon juice or vinegar. Again, it's just an acid. You want to make sure that you don't go overboard with the alternate acids. Cream and tartar, it comes from grapes. It's the outer coating of grapes. That little white kind of haze that's on the outside of grapes, that's cream and tartar. So now we're going to turn this back on high. Just the bowl down here just real quick. Got a little bit of cream and tartar hanging out on the side there. We'll turn our mixture back on high, and we're going to slowly add our granulated sugar. We do not want to add it all at once. If you do, it'll cause your egg whites not to whip to a full stiff peak that we're looking for. So we're going to slowly add it. I can already hear the meringue starting to slap. That's telling me it's starting to thicken like it's supposed to. We don't want to over whip our meringue. If we do, it'll become really unstable. We want it nice and glossy and a stiff peak. Again, you can hear it slapping. That's telling me it's getting very close to being where it needs to be. Drop our thing down. I don't think we're quite ready yet. No, we're at a soft peak right now, so we want to let this go just a little bit longer. Soft peak is where the peak basically turns over. It won't stand up on its own, and I'll show you the stiff peak here in just a minute. The attachment that we're using for the mixer is a whip. You definitely want to use a whip, not a paddle. A paddle will incorporate some air, but it's only used for creaming, not for whipping, like a meringue or a whipped cream. You want to use a whip for the check it again. Almost there. Basically, if you've done your meringue right, you should get about triple the volume. Just a bit more. Yeah, right there. Very close. Meringue is what we make marshmallows from. They add gelatin to it. Now we've got a stiff peak. So see how our peaks are standing up? They're not floating over. Now we're ready to make our cookies. So now we're going to take everything off. Move this mixture out of the way. The mixing method we're going to use right now is folding. We don't want to do an aggressive mix on this because we'll end up beating all the bubbles out of the meringue that we've just created, so we don't want to lose that. We're going to add our vanilla. And all of our flour and powdered sugar. So our almond flour and powdered sugar. Add it all at once. And that's the reason that we put this on parchment paper. It's easy to move. We're also going to add our color. I'm choosing to do yellow for these. Do a nice yellow because we've got a lovely raspberry fill for one, which is a nice pink color. And then we've also got a chocolate ganache that I made. So we got a nice brown that will go with the yellow, be a nice contrast in color. So again, we're using a folding method. Oh, as far as the food color that I'm using, we use an AmeriColor. Comes in a little bottle. Basically, I got it in a box like this. This typically lasts me for the whole year as far as my classes. This is more like a paste rather than a liquid. I highly recommend this versus a liquid. Using the liquid, a lot of times it will cause the macarons to get too runny. And also these colors tend to be pretty true to its color. They don't lose or fade that much. You do want to do them just a tiny bit darker than what you want the end result to be. Because when they bake, they're going to lose a little bit of the color, but it doesn't lose as much as what a liquid food color is. Now, there is a point where we want to stop stirring. And basically, what we want it to do, we want it to flow not like water or liquid off of our spatula, but it shouldn't come off in chunks, and it shouldn't just sit on it. So that means I don't have this quite stirred up enough. If you stir it too much, your cookies will float on your pan. What I mean by that, they'll just spread. They won't stay in the nice round circle that they're supposed to be. If you don't do them enough, they'll be chunky. They'll be kind of again, chunky, or have pieces on the top rather than nice and smooth on the top like they should be. We're almost to that point. It's almost flowing like it's supposed to. Now it's flowing off the spatula in kind of a stream like it should be. Let's get our bag prepared. So we're going to use a number 1A tip. It's an open end tip. This is the tip that you want to use to make your macarons with. We opt to use a disposable bag for these. It just makes for easier cleanup. You can use a reusable bag on it. Again, it's just a little bit extra cleanup that you'll have. The one thing when you're prepping your bags, always make sure you fold the top over and do it about 2.5 inches, 2 to 2.5 inches over, so it makes a little kind of sleeve, if you will. This gives you a spot that you can put your fingers up in, and it enables you to hold the bag. It also gives you a place to scrape the spatula on, and additionally, you're not going to get any batter or icing on the top, so therefore whenever you get the bag ready or set to use, you're not going to get stuff all over your hands and have a big mess all over your hands. So now we're going to load the bag. The one thing that I've noticed when making these, if it's really, really hot, or if your hands typically are hot or really warm, it's a good idea to dip your hands in ice water and then dry them off real good. It does affect this batter a little bit if your hands are hot or if it's really warm in the room. So definitely keep your hands fairly cool. Again, if you tend to run warm hands, then make sure that you're cooling your hands off before you mess with this product. All right, let's get our pans ready. I made some templates. This is the size that the cookies need to be. And we put a piece of parchment paper over the top. And when we're done portioning them out, we pull out the templates. When we do this, we want to make sure to hold the bag still. You don't want to move the bag around. So you don't want to make a circle with the bag. You want to put the bag or the tip to the center of the form or the circle, and then you push the product out until it fills the circle up. And you leave the tip about an inch off of the sheet pan. So basically, again, just like this. Push it until it fills the circle. Stop pushing. Go to your next one. Again, the trick to these guys are mixing properly and then letting them dry. So after we're done with this, we want to make sure that we let them dry properly. The other thing is you don't want to move these bags around or the bag around to fill the hole. The reason why is it'll make ridges in there. And instead of having a nice smooth cookie, you're going to have big gashes in the finished cookie, and it won't, presentation-wise, it won't look as good. Typically, these are made in multicolors, generally a pastel in color, so a light green, a sky blue, a pink, a purple. Those are the type of colors these typically come in. You can fill them with just about anything. A curd, a mousse, a ganache, a jam. And normally we try to do things in these that are slightly acidic because these cookies are really, really sweet. They're a very rich, dainty cookie. The next thing that we've got to do after we get them all done is we want to take our pan, and this is important that we do this. This is going to pop any big bubbles out of it. It's also going to set the cookie. And you want to be a little bit aggressive with this. So you're going to pick the pan up about 3 or 4 inches off the table and slam it pretty hard on the table. Do this about 4 or 5 times. You're going to see holes pop. Those are big bubbles that we want to get out of there. That should be about right. Around and give it one more good slam. All right, we're going to set this off to the side and let it dry. We'll come back to you here in just a little bit to show you the product when it's ready to go in the oven.